All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. It is Friday, April 7th of 2023 here, wrapping up our shows for this week. We will be back on Monday, but Fridays are always a good day to get your questions in for over the weekend sports, whether that be MMA, whether that be NASCAR, whether that be Formula One, whatever we got going on this weekend. Get those questions in now. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew, one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. It's a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. You can post questions live in the YouTube chat or in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord, there's a link in the description below to get joined up. Highly recommend it as always. But looking ahead today, going to pull up the app. We got a big 11-game NBA slate today. MLB is kind of interesting. They're running like a split slate, so there's like a early / afternoon coming up here, within the hour here. So if you have questions about MLB prior to this slate locking, looks like all the lineups are in. Get those in now, and happy to give you guys any insight. We got a 5-game main slate later today as well. So a lot of DFS action going on. Golf is in full swing. We got the Cut Sweat today. Cut Sweat is projected for about +2. So if you guys are keeping up with your golf lineups, good luck. I know I surely am. And then it looks like we have an 11-game hockey slate as well. So a couple large slates, a couple ongoing slates, got some split slates. No better time to check out SaberSim. If you are not joined up with us and just stumble upon the show, we have a 7-day no strings attached free trial. Information about that in the description below. But I have like quite a few questions that came in via support, so we'll get to those. But I did want to hit Neil's question here first. Really quickly here, this question from the Edge DFS said, hello, when do you guys usually start sims for XFL games starting tomorrow at 1? So I would expect the XFL sims to be up, I would say, give us to like 5 p.m. Eastern today, and they should be up. So keep your eye out for those. I was talking to the team about those a little bit earlier, and you should expect to see XFL sims XFL projections within the next couple of hours here. All right, going to hit this first question from Neil, and then we'll get over to all the questions that came in via support today. But Neil said, for MLB, if a user were to run lineups using default sliders, not make any projection adjustments, and just play the top SaberScore lineups, I'm curious if you think that player could reasonably expect a positive ROI over the long run. Running lineups with no rules would be a disaster using a traditional optimizer, but SaberSim generally gives you good lineups right out of the gate. And then the Edge really quickly said, thank you very much. Yep, happy to help. So getting back to this question, Neil. So I think this is an interesting question. I do believe that SaberSim as an optimizer is very different than a traditional optimizer. The way that we are able to handle correlation and the way that we are able to build you stacks right out the gate. I don't think you could go into a traditional optimizer, run builds with no rules about stacking rules, about anything like that, and get all of these strong stacks here, right? So if we just I'm making my 2 adjustments here in the home screen. Somebody asked about this, how do I make it so I don't have to adjust 2 players every time I run a build? Just make the adjustments in the home screen, and then those adjustments will be consistent through any other build that you run there. So, going to run some lineups just so we have some lineups to look at, to work with here. But really, what I'm trying to show is that, what kind of stacks are we getting out of the gate? How is correlation working in and of itself? And I think that, just this one aspect shows how SaberSim's optimizer is different, is stronger. We go right over to our stack type, seeing a lot of 5-2s, a lot of 5-3s, a lot of 5 stacks, a lot of 4-3s, and then we come down here and then we're seeing, a few, maybe none of these like 2-3 stacks here. So that is directly because of the way we handle correlation and the way we understand upside correlations. The only pushback I would say to this question in general is that, by just coming in here and playing the top SaberScore lineups and not doing any type of risk management or diversification in the post build. I realize it's like a theoretical question, but I would say that uh, the times that you like could win could be a little more spread out, a little like fewer and far in between, as opposed to coming in here doing risk management, spreading out your exposure, spreading out your allocations for the night. SaberSim does not understand in and of itself diversification and risk management or bankroll management as well, right? It is just trying to give you what it believes to be the top plays. Like, hey, these plays are what I think are the most EV. So I'm just going to kind of give those to you a lot. The way we randomly sampled the sims and the way that we, grab those sims and build your lineups helps because we can grab different groups of sims. Some sims can overlap. Like I say, we had 3 sims, 1, 2, 3, and then we could grab 1 and 3, and then we could grab 2 and 1, and then we could grab 2 and 3, so et cetera, like that. The way we're able to do that gets you some natural diversification, and obviously that's handled on a much bigger scale. We're talking about thousands and thousands of sims. But I think that, across the sims, you're going to see a lot of the same plays probably pop up. Like, just for instance, this San Diego, 65% exposure here. That's kind of a lot, especially for baseball. We're talking about hitters who have this super wide range of outcomes. I think that, you can come into the builder, log into SaberSim. I think you can trust what you see on the home screen without any additional adjustments. I think that you don't have to set any rules. You do not need to adjust projections. You do not need to adjust ownerships. But I think that you could do yourself a good service by coming in here, looking at some of these exposures, and then managing them a little bit here. If you were to just play this, like, you have a lot of eggs in the San Diego basket, and that's going to work out sometimes, but sometimes it's not going to, right? Something that I see here right off the bat is that, we are excluding this like 37% exposure to Washington. And that's just a stand that the builders take and say, hey, more often than not, we think Washington is going to bust in Coors, similarly to the way the game played out yesterday with a 1-0 Coors slate game on a short slate. But if you were to come in here and do some diversification, adjust some min uniques. We'll see how high we can go. Maybe we get to like 6 here. San Diego comes down to 50. We're still fading Washington super heavily here. How far in my pool am I? I'm still close to like the top 10% here. So maybe we boost this, see how high we can go. I can't believe we can get to 7. Just 7's just about like the max here, which I'm happy with. 182 out of 525. Pretty, not too far in the pool with really high min uniques here. San Diego drops to 35. Interesting that when you force min uniques so high, the builder is saying, okay, well, actually, we really like Atlanta at that point here, right? So, I wouldn't have gotten that impression from leaving my min uniques lower. But I think that, just coming in here, like even manually, right, aside from min uniques, maybe saying, having no Washington here is probably too risky for me, and I'm just going to bump my exposure to that one individual team. But that's kind of the way I like to handle it. Start with min uniques and then go in and make any final fine-tune adjustments that you need to from there, right? And we're still not super far in the pool, so I'm okay with that. So I think that the builder is great. I think that, you should trust a lot of what you see on the home screen, but I do think there's value to be added in this post-build part of the process. And then it looks like Neil is here. Neil said, I agree with the min uniques or some other tools for risk management. I just wanted to keep the question simple and related to whether having a process that simple could have a positive ROI expectation. So yes, I think that, our projections are really strong. Our correlations are really strong. SaberSim really shines in like these correlation type of sports, like NHL, like MLB, sports where simulating the games at bat by a bat, or, shot by shot, or however that works, is where we really shine. We're able to capture that correlation value and then work it into the lineups at, the right rate with the right values and get all of that kind of cohesive and worked into your lineups. So that is my spiel on correlation. But good question, Neil. All right. Comment here from Ryan. Ryan said, OwnersBox is only allowing 3% for the NBA contest. Much more sustainable contest now. I mean, that's great to hear. I've seen that, their main NBA GPP is still overlaying pretty heavily here. It's not like the biggest contest. It's like, 500 to first or something along those lines, but it can only fill like 60%, which is great for users. So I would take advantage of that while that is there. The NBA injury report tonight looks absolutely insane. If you are, still playing NBA DFS and make sure you're by your computer all night. That's really all I can say here. Just an insane amount of questionables on today's on today's slate. I don't think I've ever had to scroll this far on the NBA injury report. This is just absolutely insane. So if you are not going to be around to late swap on a Friday night, do yourself a favor and do not play NBA DFS tonight. That's probably the best decision that you can make on that front there. But that was our last question in the Discord. Looks like we are caught up with questions in the YouTube chat. I'm gonna hop over to some of these questions that came in via support here. They all came in from one user, so I'm just gonna hit them all one at a time here. But first question says, if my night consists of 300 FanDuel and 200 DK lineups, does having a pool of 500 for each hurt my chances to win? So I would say that, the only thing that a small lineup to pool ratio is going to do is affect your ability to get diverse. So here specifically, I'm showing 20 lineups with a pool of 525, and we got up to 7 mini uniques here. I would say that, if I wanted to run, let's say this is my DraftKings, you said 200 DraftKings lineups here. If I were to do 200 lineups out of 500, that just reduces the amount of mini uniques I can get to here. Would be probably pretty surprised if we can get to 4, which we can. So I think 4 is probably the max. So we go from 4 to 7 there, or from 7 to 4. We're still getting pretty high mini uniques here, but I would say that's like the biggest thing that it does. I wouldn't be concerned about the quality of the lineups, but I would just take it into account from like a diversification. What do your exposures look like? Are you getting super spread out? I think these exposures still look really good here, and I wouldn't be too worried about them. But if you're getting like super concentrated pools, maybe then you would want to consider splitting your builds into smaller like groups of lineups and then running multiple lineups or multiple builds. Before the next question, Eagle said, golf is crazy today. Golf is crazy today, and it is so much fun to keep up with and sweat your teams. All right. Next question says, how many lineups should my pool be set at with a pro subscription based on these same number of entries? Is there a formula to use for lineups in a pool versus lineups to be entered? So there's really not. I think this is like something that we also touched on yesterday. And if you're on a pro subscription, you get to build 5,000 lineups. You should always build the max, just because lineups are not generated from best to worst. They are all generated and then they are all graded by SaberScore afterwards. So your best lineup could essentially be the 5,000th built lineup. So it is always better to set this as high as it can go. I think that, it's probably overkill if you're building like 3 lineups to build 5,000. I think it's okay to shrink that number down to something like 2,500 or something like that. But that's just obviously like one example of, if you're only building a handful of lineups, you probably do not need a 1 to 1,000 lineup to pool ratio in that specific instance. All right. Next question here. Question says, my process is currently to set my stack types, build lineups, adjust min uniques, make small adjustments to exposures, then fill lineups based on the default SaberScore metric. Any steps missing or out of order? So good question here. I think that probably the only thing I would change here is that if you are on a pro subscription, which these are all coming from the same user, I wouldn't adjust stack types in the home screen. I would probably leave it alone, and then I would just wait till the post build here. And if there are any specific stack types that you like, what I would do is I would wait to see if the stack types that I am that I do not want are showing up in the post build here. So like when we're doing 500 lineups and we're doing 200, which is like 40%, some of these like smaller stacks are going to sneak in here. But if this was like a pool of 5,000 lineups, you're probably just going to get more of the highest exposed stacks here. So, say you don't want to play any of anything less than like a 3 stack, maybe. I would just come in here, see how many you're getting, and then probably just zero them out. But I just think that, the less inputs in the home screen or less adjustments that you make, the better. There was also a bug which we are working on, or which I think is fixed, or which we are working on fixing, where if you are, a user brought this up, where if you unselect all these 4 stacks, that the builder has trouble building. So I'm not really sure what was going on there, but we are working on fixing that. But I think if you have 5,000 lineups to start with, I think you just handle all of those adjustments in the post build. All right. Next question here. Question says, in the newest PGA video, I see lineups being further reduced by trimming expected duplicate lineups others may have using a formula. Is this viable for MLB? So good question. So frankly, you probably shouldn't be worrying about duplication in MLB Classic slates. If you are playing MLB Showdown, I think that you can work that into your process. So duplication in general usually comes in either like showdown contests or showdown formats, such as like MMA, such as NASCAR, such as tennis, League of Legends, CSGO. What are some other ones here? F1 has a lot of duplication risk, like NBA Showdown, NFL Showdown, sports like that. So if you're playing like a big, large, like classic slate, like this 5-game MLB slate, I wouldn't be worried about it. I like to say, don't worry about duplication until duplication becomes a problem for you. So if you are just, building your lineups, you're doing fine, you're not being duplicated when you win and things like that, I don't think you need to worry about it. So unless I won a big MLB contest where I was duplicated like 10 or more times, like 10 times, like it would take that to happen to me to go, okay, what's going on with MLB and why is this happening, right? So like for MLB, there are just so many players. The player pool is so wide. The combinations of players or positive EV, the combination of positive EV lineups that you can build is just so exponentially high that you really don't need to worry about it. When you're playing like PGA or PGA Showdown, and we're playing these smaller field events, I think there was 80 golfers today, and there's usually, or 80, 89 golfers in this tournament, and there's usually like 150, 160. So as available players in the pool goes down, as a golf lineup is only 6 players as opposed to 10 players like a DraftKings MLB contest, then those things start to come into account. So if you're interested in learning more about duplication and how to limit duplication when that is important, a couple good resources for you here. Let me show my screen instead of just SaberSim here. But I would go to 2 places. I would check out a video that Jordan and I did a while back. All you have to do is go into the YouTube and search Geomean, or maybe geometric mean, Geomean or geometric mean. Jordan and I did a video a while back. I think it's this one here, this top one, product ownership and geometric mean. We did like a 30-minute segment at the beginning of this video talking about it. That is like one of our main duplication one of our main tools that we use to limit duplication here. I've done some other segments on it throughout the office hours video that we've done over the last couple months. If you're looking for something shorter, a little more bite size, go over to our help docs under the support tab in the settings drop down and go to our frequently asked questions. In our library here, just type geometric mean and how do ownership product and ownership geometric mean work here. I did a 4.5 minute video here with an example of product ownership versus sum ownership versus geometric mean, how to apply those in the app, the different places to apply those in the app, depending on what plan you were on, and gave a brief overview here. So I think this is a good video as well if you're looking for how to apply geometric mean and methods for limiting duplication into your process. So a couple of different places for you to go on that front there. And going to get the app pulled up here. Going to keep it rolling. We are on our fifth question of 6 here. Fifth one coming in. Question says, after running lineups, is there a SaberScore value that is too low to consider playing? For example, if I run 300 lineups with a 500 max pool, is there a threshold where I am better off duplicating lineups in different contest types rather than playing a lineup below X score? Good question. So for me, no. So what I do, is if there is anything I do not want to see in my lineups, as far as like a certain projection or something like that, I'm usually just doing like some type of filter here. I'm not really doing any filters for MLB. I'm using this batter and pitcher one literally just to not show out players. I don't want to see guys who have like a projection of 0 in my table here. I just want them to kind of go away, or I don't want to see relief pitchers as well. So I'll just put these 2 basic filters. That way they don't show up. I just want to see starters for pitchers here. This is probably the easiest example. I don't want to see anybody. I just put something for like you could either do a my projection threshold, or I do like a pitches threshold as well. So I don't want to see any relievers. So I'll just get those guys out of my screen. But aside from that, I am treating every lineup that I build as viable. I think that is probably the best way to do it. If there are certain things that you want to see, maybe you always want like a 5 stack in your lineup, or maybe, you want to use this rule for one-offs that we talk about a lot here. I would put those in as rules, right? So, make sure there's always at least a 4 stack in my lineups, and then save that rule. And then now you have these 2 rules, and then you would treat every lineup in your pool as viable. So I would do stuff like that to make sure, you're getting what you want. And then in the post-build process, I'm okay playing any and all of these lineups. I'm not really looking at it from a SaberScore point of view. I've said multiple times, I do value playing lineups higher in my pool. But that being said, I'm not afraid of playing lineups lower in my pool. I just get concerned that when I am increasing like a min unique players, for instance, and then now I'm getting like lineup 525, lineup 524, lineup 521. That is a direct effect of something that I did by trying to get maybe too diverse in that instance. And I would prefer to walk that back and then find a better middle ground between min uniques and how far into my pool I am going. So not that I'm afraid of playing those lineups. I just don't want to play too many on account of the fact that I did something else to force the builder to have to play those lineups. So that is kind of the nuance and some of the thought process there. All right. Last question here in support. We have one question here from Shocks. And if anybody else has any more questions, now is a great time to get them in. Okay. Question says, is there a better way to play lineups where batters are only one roster spot away from one another? In my current builds today, I was getting lineups with players who are playing 1-5-8 on highly projected teams. I know 8-1 wraps around, but too often I was seeing Braves or Cardinals who were not as tightly correlated as I would like. So good question. So no, there's not a great way to handle this in the app here. I would say that I am probably a big proponent of stacking high run total teams awkwardly. I think that's a good way to get different from the field, especially on like chalky teams, right? Let's say, let's take Colorado here. Or let's take who's like our highest implied total, maybe Washington. Their ownership and probably their salaries grade out better here, but you could expect Washington to be on, 30% plus as like a stack here, just like an estimate right off the bat here. If a lot of the field is stacking Washington, right? The best thing that you could do is probably find a way to stack Washington that is different from everybody else. You're still getting to the best spot on the slate, but you are doing it in a way that a lot of people are not. A lot of people are probably stacking, the 1 through 5, the 1 through 6, some combination of those guys. You getting weird and doing a 1-5-8 without some of those other pieces, like I think that's great. I think that is an awesome advantage that you are getting, and that is probably a direct result from the Sims. something that happened in some set of games that led to that lineup and those players being used together. So if you're, concerned about the type of players that you're getting, what you can do in your stack is you could do batting order. So it's like, you could say, use at least 4 from 1 through 6. And then, you would get 4 players from that group. There's not a way to say like, hey, make sure these players are like right next to each other in the order. What I will say is that, if you were to pull up somebody's distribution here, we see that Lane Thomas is most correlated to Abrams and Meneses here. And then if we were to go and pull up the Washington batting order, Meneses is 2 and Abrams is 9. So usually these correlations are going to be the highest to the players like directly next to somebody. So if you're 5th, you're probably most correlated to the 4th batter and the 6th batter, right? And so the correlation slider is going to take that into account. You could try increasing the correlation slider if it's not, high enough. If there's still ticks to go here, you could increase it further to try and force more of that correlation, or you could handle it as a stack type. But overall, I think it's okay to play stacks with gaps between batters, and I almost think it is better to play odd-looking stacks on high run total teams in general to help you play the best spots of the slate, but to get different from the field with a lineup construction aspect specifically there. All right, those were our 6 support questions that came in. Going to hit this one from Shocks here. Question says, could you go over some FanDuel 150 info in terms of best exposure distribution and efficiently limiting specific stack outcomes, 40% New York, but getting around 80% of those New York lineups stacked with Philly? Okay, so let's go over to FanDuel. And let's go over, let's see. I don't know if this is the main slate or early slate or what this is. So it's not the main. Let's do early only. Not early only. Afternoon only. Okay, so if you're talking about this 2-game slate specifically, okay, yeah, Shock said any example works for example's sake. So I'm happy to talk about this like in general here. I would say that, that's probably going to be harder to avoid on a 2-game slate, especially with Cincinnati being like super like one of the lower team totals here, and then New York and Philly are like the first highest. But let's just roll with this. Let's build a 150 set here. I'm gonna build 500 lineups. Looks like you're on the pro plan, so you could probably build more lineups, but we'll just do 500 for the sake of this example. So let me get this rocking and rolling, and we will talk about this in general here. And then we'll talk about some things that you could also do before the build, but I would only do that as like a secondary step. So, okay, I'm running 150 lineups. I got this 2-game slate here. My sliders are 6-9 by default here. Gonna start kind of right to left as we talk about just in general here. So I'm gonna up this right off the bat. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. There are 9 players in this lineup. So I think just starting off with a quick adjustment for 4 players looks to be too many, not getting 150. So I'm going to drop this down to 3. And I'm adjusting my mini uniques for our audio listeners. Okay, so 3 mini uniques looks fine. We're at lineup 202 out of 580. Oh, no, we're not. We're lower. Oh, I can't grab my scroll bar. Sorry about that. All right, I think we're good now. Okay, so we're at lineup 369 out of 582. I think that's fine. Now we're going to go to stack types. A lot of big stacks, 4 stacks with a few 3 stacks sprinkled in there. I think that's okay. A lot of Baltimore Yankees game stacks. Getting to our stacks and stack combinations. So if you guys want to see the different teams that a team is stacked with, the best thing that you can do is hit this filter icon. And then what this is going to do is that this is going to basically update your stack allocations usually is what will happen here. So I have, did this work? Okay, it did work. Hold on. I got to do a hard reset. I think my app is working a little slow here and don't want to be super slow on this demo. Okay, so give it a once over. Okay, so when I hit New York, right, what it's going to do? So like we have like 97 Philly stacks, like actual lineups. We have 98 Baltimore. So you could check this, right? When I hit this filter icon, it is going to show you updated percentages for these lineups here. So out of my 90 New York stacks, now I only have 52 Philly stacks. These percentages don't look correct though, unless my math is wrong. Because 52 divided by 90 should be more than half here. So not sure what's going on there. So I'm going to make a note for myself. Incorrect percent when team filtering. And I'll see what's going on that front. But it looks like the actual numbers of the lineups are fine. So like here, so I have in my 90 Phillies and my 90 Yankee stacks, I have about half with Philly, half with Baltimore, and then not that many with Cincinnati here. How could I combat this, or how could I do something to decrease this number, right? There's nothing that you can specifically do here in the post build to directly manage that. You can like kind of hack it a little bit. You could kind of try some different things. It looks like Shocks wants to do something. So let's say you wanted to keep New York at 40%, but lowering pair with Philly to 20%. How would you do that without capping Philly as a whole to 20%? So so you can't directly do it here in the home screen. You could you can't directly do it in the post build. You could do it in the home screen. So if you go to team stacks and then you go to Yankees, we have these drop downs here in the home screen. You could say that, hey, if I'm doing a Yankee stack, have no more than 20% Philly. This is probably the easiest way to do it for all the teams would be in this screen, but this is kind of what I was getting to. If you want to do it like deliberately, I would do it here in the home screen. The only bad thing is that it might take your lineups longer to run, but with MLB, lineups come out so far in advance that this is probably the easiest way to do it. And if your lineups take longer to build, I would just still do it that way. But unfortunately, we don't have that option in the post build at the moment. You would have to basically handle it on like you'd have to go in here and then see what are like the largest combinations. So in my New York stacks, I'm getting the most Philly 3 stacks here. So then what I would do is I would just go in and limit my Philly 3 stacks. So then I would say, okay, I'm getting a lot of Philly 3 stacks with my Yankees. So let me just go in and overall lower my Philly 3 stacks. And then this will naturally lower the amount of combinations that I have with them and the Yankees. So then now my Philly 3 stacks go down to 42 from 52. So this is the way I would handle it in the post build, by seeing what are the biggest stack combinations for a team and then turning the filter off and then just managing that stack. Or if you want to do it in the home screen and then rerun another build, you could just do that as well. Shock said, perfect. That step at home streaming is what I was missing. Thank you. Yep. Happy to help. Just be a little aware of the run time. This can cause the builder to run a little longer. All right, AK Knowledge said, should Geomean be used in all sports? So I would say no. Geomean is like really a means for duplication specifically here. So if I were, I don't want to worry about it for MLB. I don't think you need to. We are using, the adjusted own. And then when you go into the post build, our post build SaberScore formula is actually average adjusted own. It's not like product adjusted own or anything like that. We are using the average here. This is what we found works better in our back testing, is the average adjusted own as opposed to product ownership here, just because product can be a little aggressive when you have like super low owned players, like sub 1% owned, could really throw things off. We think average works better in general here. So I wouldn't use Geomean for anything other than duplication, like sports or slate types where duplication is a direct factor. All right, everybody. Those are our last questions. We got all the questions in support. We got all the questions in the YouTube chat. We got all the questions in the Discord. We will be right back on Monday for our next show, April 10th. So if you guys have questions, building lineups over the weekend, something pops in your head, drop it in the Office Hours channel, let it sit there, and then that'll give us some questions to get rolling on our Monday show. And if you guys are not playing over on OwnersBox, I highly suggest playing over there like Ryan was talking about. They're making adjustments to their contests each and every day. A lot of the contests are overlaying. I'm going to be overlay hunting over there myself, just like I do every other day. And then, you could get a $500 deposit bonus. Use promo code SABER or SaberSim when you sign up. This will allow us to track your entry fees, and you'll be able to earn free SaberSim credit. So a link to this page is in the description of this video. Check it out, get signed up. But until Monday, good luck in all your contests. Take care and bye.